few months ago, Nicolas Claxton was not really on the NBA draft radar, but a lot can change in a short amount of time, at least for Claxton. See, Claxton was not a big-time recruit coming out of high school. He was listed outside of the top 200 by all recruiting services. Evaluators kept on waiting for Claxton to emerge as a big-time prospect in high school, but it never happened. Quote, coming out of the state of South Carolina, as a junior, Claxton was viewed as a potential breakout player during the high school year. He was long, athletic, and had some skill, but he was also very raw. When it got to the spring and summer, quite honestly, Claxton really had a tough time. He went to the NBA Players Association Top 100 camp and really struggled there, and it always seemed like when he went against top competition, he would struggle. For this reason, Claxton ended up signing with the University of Georgia. As a freshman, Claxton played in every game for the Bulldogs, but only scored in double digits once. He was really nothing more than a reserve backup big. But in his sophomore season, once the great Tom Crean took charge, Claxton really burst onto the scene. He started all 32 games, averaging 13 points per game, 8.5 boards, and 2.5 blocks per contest. He also showed some shooting touch, making 28% of his 64 attempts from beyond the arc. Yet, even after his very solid sophomore campaign, Claxton was not showing up in any first-round mock drafts. So, what changed? Well, I think some of it is that people just realized how good he was on tape, and some of it is the fact that Claxton balled out in the pre-draft process. I'll address the latter point first. Claxton really popped in the combine setting and made a wise decision to participate in scrimmages, where his defensive activity and smarts are on display. He's got impressively active hands and feet, measured at just under 7 feet tall in shoes with a 7 1/4 wingspan, and left a strong impression by constantly finding ways to disrupt the opposing offense. Offensively, Claxton is comfortable handling the ball and often did so at Georgia this season. And while that won't be his role at the next level, he's a pretty strong all-around player for someone who can also be classified as a project. If his jump shot can make additional progress, there's real upside here. He's the type of versatile big teams will be happy to develop. In other words, here are some pros to Claxton's game according to Kevin O'Connor's scouting report. Nick is a good ball handler who can grab and go in transition or score with finesse on cuts and rolls. He stays low on his drives and scores like a guard around the rim with dexterous layups. He's also an effective passer who could easily thrive as a scorer or playmaker on the short roll. He's particularly comfortable making left-handed passes off the dribble. Claxton also avoided careless turnovers despite being forced into being a primary playmaker. He won't have the same role in the NBA, but his skills will make him a tough cover in the pick and roll. Further, he didn't play with a point guard, which hurt his percentages. He shot 34.6% in 2 years on catch-and-shoot jumpers, which isn't good, but it's something to build on. Lastly, Claxton is a good rebounder considering his underdeveloped body, though stronger bigs will move him off his spots until he adds muscle. He does have impressive defensive potential once his fundamentals improve. He's mobile moving laterally and plays hard. Plus, he has the length and reaction time to contain guards and wings. He's a good shot blocker who can alter perimeter jumpers and recover when beaten to swat away shots from behind. He's an attentive off-ball defender who steps up for weak side blocks too. On the other hand, Claxton lacks physicality and avoids contact. He gets pushed around a lot. He had a late growth spurt, so either he's just adjusting to his new body or lacks a degree of toughness. He should be considered no more than a theoretical shooting threat because of his average touch near the rim and subpar percentages on his jumper and from the line. He also must do a better job of establishing post positioning, especially when sealing defenders underneath the basket on cuts and rim runs. His thin frame allows beefier players to plow through him on the post and on perimeter drives. He needs to get significantly stronger to effectively defend bigs. Finally, too often he stands upright or opens his stance on the perimeter, which allows opponents to blow by him. He needs to stay seated in his stance and move laterally on his heels. So, what's the final verdict on Claxton? Well, personally, I love him. In fact, he might be my favorite prospect in the entire draft. I think Claxton has a skill set that perfectly aligns with the modern NBA. Additionally, I think he has massive room for improvement, but at the same time, he's not years away from becoming a competent NBA player. I mean, look at it from this perspective. If I told you that there was a player who was a legit 7-footer that could block shots, move fluidly laterally, hit threes, handle the ball, and hold up on the defensive glass, you would probably think he's a top 5 pick. Oh, and what if I added that he didn't have an injury history, was a member of the All-SEC academic team 2 times, and is known as a hard worker? Like, this guy is really, really good. So, you might be asking, why doesn't the rest of the NBA think as highly of him as I do? And I have a theory. See, as I mentioned earlier, Claxton was not an elite recruit, nor a guy that received much attention in college. He He was never on the draft radar until he actually was. So, I think throughout the draft process, all evaluators have been playing catch up on Claxton. They've been trying to make up for how low they were on him initially. But for a guy that was universally as low on boards as Claxton was, as late as April, he could only crawl up so high on the boards. Prospects that are outside the top 50 at the end of the college season never become top 10 picks, even though sometimes they probably should. It's just kind of a thing that happens in the NBA where artificial ceilings are placed on guys' draft positions. Regardless, I think Claxton deserves to be a top 10 pick. He's the real deal and will be great value for whoever can select him. Comment down below, what are your thoughts on Nic Claxton? Who do you think is the most underrated player in the NBA draft? Share the video with your friends and leave a like if you enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RespectThePoint. That is all for this video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.